Good morning. How are you?
Hey,
I thought I was seeing you in person today, but no such luck for you.
well, we'll just have to imagine it.
What's going on?
Well, this is the Yom's kind of week. We had Yom HaShoah last week, and then the other night we had a really meaningful Yom HaZikaron with about 500 people in attendance, lots of Israelis and community members alike. It was done very well. They did a nice job. The team did, and all the Israeli organizations with all the American ones, we all came together and put together something great.
All right. And there everybody's getting along?
I mean, yes, relatively. It's a Jewish community. So at some point, you got to think about like some friction.
Everybody's agreeing with you? Did that
Never,
feel weird?
that's never happened.
Right.
Two Jews, three, four, five opinions. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Do the yams get in the way of people using the gym? Because I think that's the complaint I hear all the time. Too many holidays, the gym's closed.
The holidays, actually, the gym has limited hours on the holidays to kind of scale it down to be sensitive to the synagogue partners. It's Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur that we close for 3 days, and you and I, we know how we feel about the second day of Rosh Hashanah, but
I know
whatever.
it is.
At least the gymnasium's not turned into a gymagogue anymore because that took the gymnasium out of commission for a week, and people really didn't like that.
When did that happen? Oh, before Bet Shalom.
Yeah, Beth Shalom used to have a big service in there, and they decided to do it differently and just hold multiple services at different times throughout the day.
Got it. Yeah,
Probably
well,
save money, I'm guessing.
that's a long way off. I don't even want to think about the high holidays again.
Well, but we could, for today's
Can
guest,
we do it every other year? Would that be okay?
ask today's guest. We're going to have another rabbi today, so
I mean, we put mosaic every other year and everything seems fine. I mean, I know there's a lot of complaints, but the world hasn't exploded.
No, it has not. It has not exploded.
I think we
You know,
should go to odd years.
even the Reform rabbi in me says it's important to do the holidays every year.
All right, fine. Fair enough. All right, you're right. We do have another rabbi with us today. I'm excited to bring on Rabbi Moshe Trepp. He's the campus rabbi at the University of Texas and the director of Olami Texas, where he inspires Jewish students through learning fellowships, one-on-one mentorship, and immersive trips. He's originally from the UK. He trained there, and at Mir Yeshivas, he combines a deep Torah knowledge with a warm, approachable style. Excuse me, alongside his wife Fagi, he has vibrant Shabbat meals and creates a home away from home for students, helping them connect with their heritage in a meaningful and personal ways. He's been part of our awesome Jewish community and college community for nearly 21 years. He's also been married that entire time and has 6 children. Welcome to the podcast, Rabbi Trepp.
It's exciting to be here with you. Thank you. Thank you for bringing me in.
I've actually known you for quite a while because Jessica Levy, who's, my unofficial little sister, used to study with you when she was in college. She's been out 15 years now, which is crazy to think about.
And she turned out okay, which is even, more astonishing.
Maybe the doctor saved her.
That's
Awesome.
But that's the hardest part of a campus job, is to get really close with students and then they graduate and leave. A community rabbi, you're with them for life cycles. With us, we got a few years, and you just have to make that difference or hopefully not destroy them.
Well, so that leads me to my first question, right? So you have these kids, right? They show up on campus. I guess ostensibly they're Jewish. They probably come from a lot of different backgrounds, and some Reform, some Orthodox. How do you find these kids? They find you? You find them?
It's very good. I mean, for about 12 years in Austin, I was working with the Hillel. I was working side by side with Rabbi Septimus, and that was always great. It was easy. I didn't have to go out looking for students because students come to Hillel. It doesn't matter who's there. The students know to look for Hillel when they come to a college campus. When I left Hillel, that's when I had to start reinventing myself and branding myself. At the beginning, it was just whoever knew me found me, and they told their friends and family. But they graduate, and then you have to start finding the new people. So it really took me a few years to build myself up and get my name out there. Now I'm not just JLF Texas, which I was called, and I'm still legally called, but Olami Texas, which is more of a national name. And that way I can have some brand recognition. but there's nothing different about our organization. We just changed the name. That way, if people are coming from Boston and they're involved with the Olami over there and they're coming to Texas, they can say, I wonder if there's an Olami rabbi in Texas, and they can hopefully find me. But already by now, it's word of mouth. There's a turnover where people are bringing their friends from fraternities, sororities, and wherever they are, and they're already finding out who we are.
And what is different about your approach? It's a branch of Orthodox Judaism, correct? But it's different than Chabad.
Correct. So I grew up Orthodox, and that's all I knew until I came to Austin. That's when the whole world was in front of my eyes when I came to Austin. I grew up in a religious community. I went to yeshiva in Israel, as you said before, and got married to my wife from Brooklyn, and lived in Israel together for a few years, and then came to Austin. It originally was supposed to start a kollel. There was a funder who wants to bring a group of young religious rabbis to help build up the Orthodox presence and community in Austin. And it was a great idea, but it didn't really work. So the end of the second year, I was the only one here. And I really fell in love with the city because I like meeting new people, different types of people, diverse communities. And finally, I'm in a community where everyone is not just like me, but totally different to me. And I feel like I'm the one that's got so much to learn. And I came to Austin and I felt like a student, as opposed to just being in yeshiva and growing, just being on the conveyor belt my entire life. So I really got to meet so many different types of people. And then I fell in love with the city. I like working with different types of people. People often ask me when I go to religious communities, what are you doing in Austin? There's no Orthodox people there. Why are you on campus? How many Orthodox students are there at UT? I said, none. That's why I'm there. If there's Orthodox students, they don't need me. They've got their rabbis, they've got their parents, their families, their communities. They're coming here for their degree, and then they go back to wherever they came from, New York, Maryland, wherever they. But I love being on a journey together with people that are searching, people that are discovering, and that brings me to life. It keeps me inspired in my Judaism, watching other people who are on their own journeys.
And so most of the kids that you treat, or get maybe even all of them that you see, most of them are not Orthodox, correct?
Almost all of them are not.
And so how do you merge your ideas with their Judaism?
So I think the number one thing that I've learned, and hopefully I'm able to give over to my students, is that there's one thing we all want, is to get to our goal. How we get there, there's many different ways of doing it. I've got my way, and both of you, Doctor and Rabbi, have your own ways of doing it. I believe, Doctor, you affiliate with Conservative, and Rabbi, you Reform. I'm Orthodox, which is awesome. We're all on the same screen, and we're all talking Judaism over here. But I realized, if we're all trying to get to the top of the mountain, and there's many different paths to get there, but as long as we're looking to get to our goal, to reach our goals, and as I always tell our students, there's 613 mitzvahs in the Torah. There's not a Jew in the world that can keep 613 mitzvahs. In order to keep the 613 commandments, you have to be a man, a woman, a Kohen, Levi, Israelite. You have to be living in Israel in biblical times and after. You have to be married and divorced, dead and alive. You have to be, it's just, in order to keep the mitzvahs is impossible. I believe that the Torah gives us so many mitzvahs because it gives us so many ways to connect, so many ways to build a beautiful and meaningful life. And as long as we're focused on finding our path, our direction, and all of us are focused on each other's paths and directions, we can all build a beautiful future and hopefully get to the goals together.
So what is it like as a student? Do you interact with them on a regular basis? Do they come when they want? How does that work?
I live on campus. I live on West Campus. I live across the road from ZBT. So I'm walking around campus all day.
Good marketing for you.
Yeah.
Smart placement.
Look for the Olami Texas sign across from ZBT on Salado Street. But people can just walk around the coffee shops on campus and you'll see one of us from Olami sitting at one of the coffee shops, Medici, Lucky Lab, Starbucks on campus. We just move from coffee shop to coffee shop, walking around, meeting students one-on-ones during the day. Besides for that, we have different classes throughout the week. We have our Jewish Learning Fellowships to do in the evening, and we have different lunch and learns, and many different great programs going on throughout the week. And Shabbos is our biggest. Shabbos is the greatest, it's the hardest, it's the most fun, and that's where just so many different people come from everywhere. Just they come from Hillel, they come from Chabad, there's some that just come to us, and it's just a good time. And that's where we have our strongest mass of people. And it's every single Shabbat. Friday night, we do a smaller lunch on Shabbat morning, all the holidays, but we're on campus all the time. It's not 9 to 5, it's 24/7. And if a student wants to find us, they know where to find us.
Rabbi, so, you and I have known each other for about actually 11 years. I mean, I think we actually more than 11 years, because I interviewed for the Hillel job well before I actually came to Austin. I think it was before Thanksgiving of that year. And you and I have had a beautiful friendship. I'm curious to know, because you actually are one of the longest standing rabbis in our community at this point. I know there's Rabbi Blumoff and a few others. And what do you think, like, when you think about the student community, because you've been working there primarily since your time here in Austin, like, what are they seeking? Like, why are they coming to you? Why are they coming to Hillel or Chabad? Or, what are they seeking? And why is this one of the best times to really engage them?
That's a great question. And also, you're right. The first time I met you was when you were interviewing, and thank God you got the job. And also just a tease, though, because working with you at Hillel was a true delight. It was a treat. And then I wake up one day, and by the way, Daniel Septimus has left. He's at the JCC. Matt and Kim take credit for that, by the way, so you can blame them. Okay, they're thinking they got the big picture. I'm more selfish. I like you near me. But
you can have him back, actually. We've had enough of him.
Matt's like, he's costing me too much money.
I think college is where people are coming because they're studying, they're searching, they're researching. Until people get to college, they're learning whatever they're being told by the box they're put in. It could be their home, their Sunday school, their summer camps, their synagogues, and that they know what they are taught, but it's not what they have chose to learn. It's what they have been given. I believe when they come to college, when you come to university, it's the first time when you're choosing your classes, you're choosing what you study, you're choosing what you do out of class time, what organizations you join, what hobbies you take on. And your whole day for the first time is built by the student, and they're discovering for themselves. And I think it's very nice that they're able to ask the questions, to look out and to find someone that they can talk to, that they respect, that they look up to, that they feel they can have a mutual relationship with. And it's not just, this is the synagogue we go, or this is the rabbi we talk to, but it's a rabbi that I found. And you can have a student now will go to Hillel, Chabad, and Olami. They'll go to all of them. You can have one of them or none of them, which is sad. But I feel that it's the student that is choosing. It's the student that is picking. And if they come to you, it means because you've got something which they want. And it's a responsibility. It means that we have to help them on their journey. We have to be there with them to give them what they're looking for, because they really found you and selected you. So, and they got 4 years, like I said before, and it's a big part of their journey. I think now when they leave college, that's when you find your job, you find your spouse, you find a community, you start your family. But it's really, you're molding your whole future is in those few years on college campus. That's why I believe being a rabbi on campus is such a huge opportunity and a great responsibility as well, because even though you're losing them after a few years, but you can meet students 10, 20 years later, and they're saying, like, a lot of what I do today is because of the influence that I got while I was in college. So it's very inspiring, it's uplifting, but it's a big responsibility.
Yeah, I've always said that when I was interviewing for Hillel and contemplating moving from the pulpit to Hillel, and talked to a number of people who became my mentors. One of them was Rabbi Dan Bridge, who was the rabbi who really built up the University of Washington Hillel in Seattle into a really vibrant, thriving Hillel. He said one thing, tongue in cheek, saying that, look, if you don't like a student, they're gone in 3 or 4 years. So you don't need to worry about having, like you do, congregants that are with you for life, right, or community members. On the other hand, like you said, they're there, they want to learn. This is probably one of the only times in their lives where they're really going to truly be open to any perspective, or almost any perspective. And but this is where our community should really be investing, kind of this bridge between leaving their parents' house to college and ultimately guiding them to where they need to go as young adults. And we sometimes forget that even though we're not seeing it on a daily basis, right? We're not our parents aren't seeing it, our donors aren't seeing it. They're not seeing that impact that's going on campus, but it's really profound. And it's because of people like you and others on campus that make those connections and allow these kids to really explore their Judaism.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that pitch too.
Well,
we should be.
You can show that your Olami fundraiser this year when you email me 10,000 times to give money.
Once a year.
So, it's interesting, Daniel said the parents don't notice it, right? Jack, as many people know, is about to go off to college in less than 3 months. And you are correct. I can't really force him to go to Hillel or, obviously every time we go visit colleges, we go by the Hillel and check it out, right? And tell him how nice it looks, even if it doesn't look nice. But I am curious, do people, these kids, as they evolve over the 4 years of college with you, do they go home, talk to their parents? Do they come back with more questions? Do they actually change their parents' minds sometimes? What kind of conversations have you had over the years with these kids?
Very interesting question. I never try to change people's minds. I never try to tell people what they should believe.
You're a rabbi, of course you do.
No, yeah.
It's like in the job description.
If I'm there to help them with what they're looking for. That's the way I see myself. I'm not here telling students, you must keep Shabbos, and how can you eat that? You shouldn't be eating that. Where I do see myself is a student comes to me and says, tell me more about Shabbos. I'd love to learn more about it. How will it change my week? What am I supposed to be doing if I want to take Shabbos up to another level? And I'll say, okay, if you want to get together and learn about Shabbat, then we can get together and we'll learn about Shabbat. But I'll never, ever tell the student that this is something that they should be doing. And I think that's another answer to Rabbi Septimus, your question is why I've lasted so long, is because I'm here to help them with what they are seeking. And even if someone said, I'd love to keep Shabbat, I'll even tell them, try it for an hour. See if you like it, because I believe Judaism is like a pendulum. It's anything's like a pendulum. If you try anything too hard, too quick, you end up going in the other direction equally as hard and quick. But I'm here to help people on the journey that they're trying to plan out for themselves, as long as it's something that I'm okay with, of course. But very often a student will go home and saying, I'm keeping Shabbat, and they'll be upset with me saying, what have you done to my child? What have you done? Like, I sent them a good secular child, and now they're coming back and my kitchen's not kosher enough, and now they don't want to go out with us on Shabbat. And I say, like, all I'm doing is giving your child what they're looking for, and never, ever, ever push anything on anyone. And that is one of the things that our students enjoy, is that I'll never tell a student that just because I'm doing it, you should do it, because I myself am growing. I'm a growing person myself. I'm figuring it out for myself. All I want to do is that if someone comes to me and says, teach me more, I want to understand it to a deeper level. Can you tell me the spiritual meaning behind something? I'll say, okay, let's get together and talk about it. Let's meet at a coffee shop and schmooze. But it's never to twist arms or brainwash, but it's always just to help people on their journey. And I can meet with people for 4 years, and all they'll want to learn about is how to be kind and charitable and be generous and be and that's why for me it's always enjoyable to learn different things with different students, because it helps me on my journey as well. So when they have a question or want to learn more about something, I'll say, let's find a good book that discusses it. We'll get together once a week and study it, and we grow together. So that's why I feel we're all growing and traveling together. And there's many people that come to college and try Shabbat out for a month, 2 months, a year, and say, you know what, it's not for me. And I have respect for everybody's journey. I'm just at this point in their life to help them if they want it. But for some, it's just a great Israel trip, Poland trip, just a fun Shabbat, and it's not about growing in a religious or observant way.
Yeah, you and I have had some interesting conversations. You know that I moved Yom Kippur this year, right? And you were the one who told me that the ZBT boys did it too. So I was like, oh, lots of smart people. And you were in favor of it.
That's not what you said. You said that Rabbi Trepp gave you permission to move it.
I said forgiveness, not permission.
Oh, forgiveness.
Well, that's different. Well, there's no confession in Judaism. It's not it's not like you can just go to the rabbi and confess and have everything forgiven. What I did, first of all, I find it very inspiring. The one thing I enjoy more than anything is that people are looking for connection. I feel sometimes we're so numb and so dead. And you talk to people about Yom Kippur and say, what is that? When is it? What do we do on Yom Kippur? They're just they've got no connection whatsoever. So when a guy says that I want to do Yom Kippur this year, but I can't do it at the times you're telling me to do it. I see someone who's searching. I see someone who's looking and eager for a connection. And that's why the ZBT guys blew me away this year. And it's such a great story, so I'm happy you brought it up. But
let's hear the story, Rabbi.
Yeah, I'll just say it very quickly.
Is kind of how I feel about my rabbinate. When someone comes to me, besides Matt, and says, I'm struggling with the date of the holiday, but I still want to observe it. The fact that they're coming to me and having that conversation is, to me, important, right? Because they're thinking about it. A lot of Jews don't even think about the holiday. They just either do it because they have to out of obligation and they don't get meaning out of it, or they don't do it at all and don't even think about it. But the fact that kids like in the ZBT, but I'd love to hear that story.
Right. I mean, just this Passover, a student comes to me with something totally not kosher. It's not kosher according to any rabbi. And he says, is this okay for Passover? And he's just like...
it absolutely is, if it doesn't have any wheat in it.
So he's just... the student wants to know, is there any chametz in it? Is that okay? So I was going to say, but you shouldn't be eating this all year. But here's a student that wants to do Passover right. I may not keep kosher all year, but I don't want to have any chametz during this week. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I believe we're all growing. And I'll get back to that in a minute. But the ZBT story is that the Red River Rivalry, Texas-Oklahoma game was on Yom Kippur. And it was very, very, very difficult challenge. It was a serious test for many, many, many students who the whole life have been going to Yom Kippur. Some of them, it's the only time they'll go to synagogue or be involved. Many of them won't go to synagogue, but they'll fast in their dorm rooms. But it's a day when everyone tries to connect some way or other. And you got the game. Everyone goes and you take a date along and it's the whole weekend and you take a bus to Dallas and you get your coolers and everything and the whole Texas fair. It's a whole fun weekend. And all of a sudden it's on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. And Wednesday night, a ZBT guy comes over to my place and I offer him something to drink and something to eat and says, Rabbi, I'm fasting. I said, do you have the wrong calendar? Like Yom Kippur's on Friday night. Why are you fasting now? So actually there's a whole group of us in ZBT, a large group. I'm not talking about 3, 4, like 25, 30 students, and there may be more, but that he was telling me that it's hit 25, 30 of his friends together made a pact that they're going to fast for 25 hours from Wednesday evening to Thursday evening. And they said that we know it's not Yom Kippur, but we want to do a Yom Kippur. We can't do it on Yom Kippur, so we're doing it tonight instead. At the beginning, just the rabbi mind on me was saying, well, why don't you just do a Passover Seder while you're at it? It's not Yom Kippur today. What are you trying to do? And then I realized here's a bunch.
Time efficiency.
Just finding the best time. But it's not about finding the best time. It's wanting to do it right. And there's other things that got in the way that was very important for them. They didn't want to just throw Yom Kippur else. They found a way to do both. Now, I believe Yom Kippur is more important. But how do I, that is my belief. That is because it's very, very important to me. I didn't watch the game because Yom Kippur was the most important thing for me that day. But they wanted to watch the game. It was very important. And Texas was doing very, very well this year. It was very, very exciting. It was actually a game to look forward to. And we won, which was also nice. But it's just small of me to say, come on, guys, don't go. You'll see it next year. No, they won't. Many of them were graduating and moving on and won't. So for me, it's just like wanting to tap into that beauty, that spirituality, and join in. I just wish there was something else that people tap in for a taste of Judaism, because if the only thing I tasted was Yom Kippur, which is no taste, physical taste, but if the only thing I got, then why would I want to dive in and be more involved as well? But I found that here are students that say, we're going to do it our way. Maybe if you allow them to do it their way, they will get more involved in other ways. Maybe they will want to take different steps and be involved in Jewish life because they found a way of making Yom Kippur work for them also. But everyone, you have to meet everyone on their journey, and of course, without any judgment.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Thank you.
You're not a student. You can go to Red River every year you want.
I see Trepp all the time, mostly at weddings for people that he does. But sometimes Jessica even brings him up. And you know what? I heard there's Tuesdays with Trepp. What is that?
Oh, one of the highlights of my week. I get together in Jester, Daniel, your neighborhood, every single week, Tuesday afternoons at 1:00, and we have. By the way,
He has never ever asked to come to my house before or after. I'm just saying.
I'm hoping at 1 PM on Tuesday you're at work.
I'd rather see Faggy than you, but anyways, we can talk about her role.
She's in
So
Houston with her
She's in
kids.
Houston. Yeah,
She's
next
in
time.
Houston, but sometimes she makes a special guest appearance at these Tuesdays at the.
Wow, you know your stuff. You know it. Wow.
I know, man. People tell me.
Every Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, we have a woman's convo. So it's a class of spirituality. We always talk about what's going on in the world, the weekly Torah portion in the Jewish calendar. We try and merge everything together and just have a great spiritual conversation. It's actually beautiful. It's a lovely time. And it's every Tuesday at 1. So that is my I try to get into the community as well, because sometimes I get so sucked into my campus life. I'm in a bubble on UT campus that I lose my connection with the broader community. So I try whenever I can to get it to keep my connection, not to cut off the umbilical cord, and make sure that I'm still part of the broader Jewish community, because it's a beautiful one. It's a great one. I love the people in Austin. I love the community in Austin. Beautiful, beautiful JCC. Whenever I can get over there and enjoy the campus, the new kosher cafe now in the lobby, and just hang out with people in the community it's always a treat.
So how many weddings are you doing nowadays? Because I've seen you at a few recently.
It's been a lot. So, this month I did 4.
Are these former students? Are they people you meet in the community?
Most of them are former. Majority of them are former students, or people I've interacted with along my journey. It's so much more now because people don't get married young anymore. And when I say young, I mean in their early 20s. So I can have a great relationship with a student on campus, and then they'll move away and not get involved, unfortunately, with a synagogue community, and then maybe want to get married 10 years later, and the only rabbi they have a relationship with was their rabbi back from campus, either because we kept it up or they have fond memories of their campus experience, and they'll call me up and say, I'm getting married and we want you to do our wedding. To me, it's such an honor. It's the biggest honor in the world. So people always ask me, how much do you charge to do a wedding? I say, I'm getting the biggest. I like this, being under the chuppah with the two of you is the greatest reward in the world. First of all, because it means that you make a difference in their lives, and also just being a part of students as they're starting their own family and starting their future. Is that they let you into their chuppah, so to speak, is huge. It's huge. So it's very, very exciting. For me, that's the greatest part of my job, is being with a bride and groom under their chuppah.
Rabbi, I just did Ashley Livitz's wedding. I did Josh Dom's.
Wow, very nice.
I want to get to it, but on October 7th, on October 7th, I did his wedding, literally.
Wow.
We want to talk a little bit about that soon, but I'd be curious to know, what are you hearing as you work with these? They're mostly young adults, right? I bet you some are getting married in their 20s, some are getting married in their 30s, maybe even some in their early 40s. But what are you hearing about, or what should we know as people who are working to try to better connect young adults to their Judaism? What advice do you have for us? What are you learning from your former students that we should know about how to connect with these young adults?
Well, these are beautiful questions. No, these are all so important. I think we shouldn't shy away from our traditions without giving people the sense that they're obligated to take part, but show people how beautiful Judaism is, how rich Judaism is, how we've enjoyed these things for generations, for centuries, and it's really kept us alive. It's really the oxygen, it's the blood that pumps through us, and it's the Jewish calendar, the Jewish rituals, the Jewish observances are so beautiful, and just tapping into those gives us, it's like the ring under the chuppah, which connects us from the past generation to the next. It's like the mitzvahs that we do when we sit at the Passover Seder, and we say we're not supposed to think about our great-great-grandparents left Egypt, but we're leaving Egypt. It's us that are leaving Egypt. Don't look at it as a history book where we're just retelling stories of the past, but relive it. Live it as if we're leaving Egypt, and everyone has a Passover Seder. You don't have to have a beard and a yarmulke to feel like we're leaving Egypt. And I think, unfortunately, today, it's a good segue into October 7th, where we actually have prisoners in Gaza, where we're just there's so many Holocaust survivors who are still living with us today. We understand what it means to suffer. We understand what it means to be imprisoned and to be persecuted. We don't have to think back thousands of years. We have to understand it's the same story that's retelling itself over and over again. So it's not just we're just going along in history, but it's the same story going round and round. So whenever I get to a Jewish holiday, I try to give over to our students that we're back to the same place and time over and over again. It's Passover again. We are leaving Egypt. We are crossing the sea. We're standing at Mount Sinai. We're going into the land flowing with milk and honey. And it's as if it's not just remembering a story from thousands of years ago, because that's boring. It doesn't feel personal. But when you bring it to life and make it personal, it becomes much more real and much more enjoyable.
I've always felt that what you're saying about providing some kind of like substance, right, and joy in our Jewish traditions and in Judaism and Jewish life is really important about engagement. I do think young adults and young couples are seeking that. I really do. And, and I think the more that we can provide that authentic, joyful opportunities, the more they'll engage with us versus telling them they should feel obligated to do this and that. And I think over time, they will feel that sense of obligation. It will come into being, but they need to first feel that connection.
Right. I mean, this week in our Tuesdays with Trepp class with the women in community, I mean, we're discussing this week's Torah portion, which is actually all about family purity, going to mikvah, Jewish ritual bath. Now, I know, not because I've had these conversations with the women, that majority of the women in this room are probably not frequently going to a mikvah and doing these things. But I discussed their source in the Torah, where it comes from, why we do it, the spiritual meaning and significance, without telling them that this is what you should be doing, but giving them like a broader picture and understanding of what a mikvah is, where it comes from, and why we do it. And almost everyone in the class saying, why have we never learned this before? Why have we never been told this? This is so beautiful. It's so meaningful. Not because all of a sudden all wanted to just jump up and run to the closest mikvah, but because they said this is something Jewish that we never really understood. And I think just when people like feel they have meaning and connection and it's relatable, they feel more connected to their Judaism. And the problem is now is that many things, this is what Jews do, like Fiddler on the Roof, tradition. It's just tradition. But without any meaning or connection. It's just silly. Why would just like Noah's Ark? It's just like it doesn't mean anything. Like what is tefillin? What is kashrut? So with myself and the students, I see our relationship as just letting them in, giving them a window, giving them a taste, a flavor, and understanding this heritage, this beautiful, rich heritage that they're a part of. Whether you do it or not is up to each and every individual, but at least understand because it's ours. It's our heritage.
So transitioning now to October 7th, I'd love to hear, where were you on October 7th? And if you were on campus or around campus, talk to us about the impact of that day and the immediate days after. And then we can segue, I think, into kind of what has been the impact or aftermath of October 7th for our campus at UT and the students you serve in the surrounding universities around the community here.
Right. I'm looking forward to discussing a story where all the hostages are home, the soldiers are back home, and there's peace in Jerusalem, which is the story we're all waiting for. But October 7th was a horrific day. We all know that. We've been talking about it since. Ours actually, Il Simchat Torah, one of the happiest days of the Jewish calendar. And I actually went to Houston with a whole group of UT students. I said, Simchat Torah is a very joyous day. Let's go and be part of the Jewish community. We took them all to Houston, and we spent the entire holiday there. And we were just dancing in synagogue for hours on end. In Orthodox communities, there's no connection with the outside world on Shabbat and festivals. We didn't even know what was going on. We had no idea what was happening at that time to our community across the world. It started leaking because the security guard outside synagogue was telling people, do you know what's going on in Israel right now? We thought the guy was off his rockers. There's no way. This doesn't happen anymore. This never again is never again. We didn't believe this is possible. None of us can just look it up, take our phones out and just double check. We also said the security guard told us it's a terrorist attack, but we feel the scale is exaggerated. He's embellishing. I think he's getting too much enjoyment with the detail. And we just said, like, it's Simchat Torah today, and we can't let someone who's just giving us news on the street destroy our holiday. It's a day to rejoice and to celebrate and to be happy. And we said, God help us that after the holiday, when we turn our phones on and look at the news, it's not accurate at all. But we had this pit inside us that was saying, like, there's something bad going on and we know it, but we're trying to overcome it with joy and just fight it. And then straight after the holiday, we saw what happened, and it wasn't over. It was just horrific. It's just so sad. And I went back the next day to Austin, and then dealing with shell-shocked students. Most of the students that I'm all of a sudden dealing with are students that I wasn't dealing with that year or the year before. Students are just coming and saying, Rabbi, I want to study. I want some more spirituality in my life. Can you help infuse my day-to-day rituals with more purpose? It's all of a sudden like, what's going on? Like, I'm a Jew. Am I threatened? The protests and the marches, none of that had happened yet. I mean, I don't want to get political on this podcast, but at that point, Israel wasn't in Gaza. Israel wasn't fighting at all. We went in Gaza, we went in Lebanon. The only people being hurt at that time were us, the Jewish people, the hostages, the people from the kibbutzim along the border. So no one cared to make protests. There were no protests going on. There were no rallies. There were no signs. The students felt very lonely, very, very lonely on campus. They felt that they were targeted, even though they're not Israeli. They maybe not even Zionists, but all of a sudden, like, Jewish people are targeted. And students were coming to me, and the biggest problem wasn't October 7th, but all my friends that I rallied with for Black Lives Matter, for LGBTQ, for all the causes in the world, that the Jewish students are always there front and center. When we're being attacked, my roommates don't ask me how I'm doing. On Facebook's old now, Instagram and TikTok and all the social media, people aren't reaching out. Are you okay? Do you need a hug? Do you want to come and talk? No one cares. I come into my room and my roommates don't even look at me. They don't even pay attention. It's as if like something happened that they have no connection and don't care about at all. That was the hardest. And then when Israel went into Gaza, and then all the protests start, and people start, all of a sudden the Jewish students at UT campus are baby killers and being accused of genocide and intifada. I was walking on campus with my 11-year-old daughter, and the protester comes to my daughter's face with her camera in her face and said, here's a baby killer to my 11-year-old daughter, walking on UT campus. This was actually Passover, last Passover. This was the height of all the protests. So there was a lot of transitioning from different emotions and feelings and devastations going on. First you had October 7th, then the loneliness afterwards, and then the hate and anti-Semitism that followed. And now it's like almost like it's a status quo. It's just like the world just accepted the new reality where we just have to deal with it. We just have to deal with it. That our soldiers are, I mean, I don't want to say like not where they should be, and our hostages are just at the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's tough being a Jew and deal with it. And that's like the norm that we're dealing with today. So I feel like since October 7th, we've had to deal with so many different climates and waves and emotions that there's nothing that we as a community can get used to. It's just the most important thing for us is to be together, be unified, not to look at the differences. And at Mount Sinai, there was no Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox section. Hitler didn't care how religious or observant you were. Hitler didn't care what community you grew up, where you grew up. You didn't care about anything. If you were Jewish enough for Hitler, we should be Jewish enough for each other. And I think right now, how to deal with the situation, even if we finally figure out until we find out there's a new situation, one thing we can do is love each other so much, be there for each other and hug each other until we can't anymore, because that is one thing that everyone appreciates and we should all know how to do by now.
I mean, that's an amazing perspective on, the changes in campus life. And I can't imagine what it must feel like for somebody to come up to you with a camera to your 11-year-old and say, they're a baby killer, right? Like that. It's kind of an unbelievable personal testimony to the changes that have gone on. What's the other side of this? What's the hope side of this, right? Because if you just listen to that, you feel like, ugh, what are we even doing here, right? So what's the hope side?
Well, hope, tikva, Yom Ha'atzmaut today, coming from the ashes,
I knew
rebuilding.
that. I knew, of course, it was Yom Ha'atzmaut today. That's why I
Right.
asked the question.
Yeah, tikva is hope. That's the answer to the question. They came out of that is the Jewish story. We came out of the ashes, literally out of the ashes, and built the state of Israel. And the end of the Passover Haggadah, we say Lashana Haba Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. And we all say it. Even if you're living in Jerusalem, we say Lashana Haba Yerushalayim, because we want even a better Jerusalem. The Jerusalem that we have today is not the Jerusalem that we pray for every single day. We want a better Jerusalem. And I feel this is what's kept us alive until today is Jewish hope, is 100%. The fact that a Jewish person can be in a gas chamber and scream Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. They can be marched to Treblinka singing Ani Mamin B'Emunah Shalema, I believe in complete faith, even though they know they're being gassed. They know they're being burnt. They know there's no future. But every Jew knows that they can do whatever they want to me, but my children will be here. And we have a future. And now always on every single holiday, this is our conversation. If you look at the first part of the book of Esther, Megillah Esther that we read on Purim, it's all about Haman want to destroy every last Jew, men, woman, and child. And they were fasting and they were crying and they were praying. If you didn't make it to the end of the story, you think, wow, what a depressing nation. Like, why be part of these people? We just like, it's full of doom and it's just like, we're all being slaughtered. But then everything turns over and all of a sudden festivity and celebration and redemption and salvation. It's all of a sudden the most joyous day in the Jewish calendar. Egypt, we were slaves for so many years. And in the beginning, we're eating horseradish to remember the tears of our ancestors. And it's the matzah to remember the bread of slavery. But at the same time, we're drinking wine. We're leaning. We're reclining. We're enjoying freedom. Because we have to understand the Jewish story has its ups and downs. And it's like a wheel. And sometimes we're at the bottom. We never jump off at the bottom because the wheel's going to come back up and we're going to be at the top again. And that's been the Jewish history throughout the world, whether it's the Spanish Inquisition, the Soviet Union, the Egyptians, the Greeks, it's just Nazi Germany. It's all the way. We can go on and on and on and on. The Babylonians, and it's nonstop. But we've always come out. And where are they? Where are they today? I always like talking about this in my Passover Seder is when we do the Vahisha Amda, and every generation that tried to kill us. When I grew up, we were terrified of Ahmadinejad. He was the person that every Jew was afraid of. He was going to wipe Israel off the face of the map. And we were terrified of this person. Now, when I bring up his name to college students, no one's ever heard of him. They don't know who he is. They've never heard of Ahmadinejad. And they say, like, who is this person? Because now Sinwar, he's not alive anymore. In 20 years, no one's going to know who Sinwar is. But we're still going to be telling these stories. And I think that is our hope, is that we have to pull through. We have to be strong. And we have to do it with joy. And yes, we have to always remember the terrible things that happened to us. We can never forget. But at the same time, we have to look forward and we have to be full of hope. Because if the Jewish people were able to do that when they're burning at the stake at Spain, and say we're doing this that our children can have a beautiful future, then we as well, when the worst things happen to us, they may make us bleed, but we just become stronger through it. And if you don't mind, there's one beautiful story that's given over the last Seder in the Warsaw Ghetto. Beautiful story. So it's very, very moving. It was Passover. It was Passover when the Warsaw Ghetto was being finally just destroyed. And there was a father and son having a Seder in a bunker, and imagine all the death around them. There's blood and there's bombs, and they're sitting there. There's this celebrating freedom, and there comes time to the Manish Tana, and this little boy named Moshe asks his father if he can ask the 4 questions, and his father says, "Of course, my beautiful son, my sweet son, ask." And he starts beautifully singing the 4 questions of the Manish Tana. All of a sudden, you don't hear the bombs falling, you don't hear the screams, and you don't see the blood and smell death. It's just so pleasant. It's so sweet. He just zoned into this little boy asking the Manish Tana. And he finishes his 4 questions, and the father's about to continue. And the son says, I've got one more question. Can I ask a 5th question? And the father says, of course, Moshe, ask. And he says, Tati, my dear father, will I ever be here again to ask the Manishtana? And dear father, will you ever be here to answer the Manishtana again? And you can imagine it's probably even silence in heaven right now. Even the heavens are quiet. How do you answer such a question? And the father very sweetly answered with tears in his eye, I don't know if there'll ever be a Moshela to ask the Manishtana. I don't know if you'll ever be here to ask the Manishtana again, Moshela. But there always will be a Moshela somewhere asking the Manishtana. And as we are living today's atrocities and terrible things that are happening to the Jewish people, every one of us here, whether we believe or not, every one of us knows that in 100 years from now, there's going to be a child asking the Manishtana. We all know it, and that's what gives us hope. We're going through a rough patch right now, but our life is filled with blessings. There's so much good in our life, and we just pray that the good times come really soon, and never end, because that is the Lashana Haba B'Yerushalayim. That's next gen Jerusalem that we all want.
Well, I think that's an incredible place to leave it. It's an inspiring message out there, and I think, capped together, it's the story. I hadn't heard that story of the Manishtana in Poland before, but it encapsulates in a very, very short story sort of the Jewish existence over the millennia. So thank you for being with us. Really enjoyed having you.
It's always good with you, Moshe. Thank you.
And thank you, both of you, for everything you're doing in this community, for making it such a beautiful place to live.
We appreciate it. Thank you
so much.
Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week back here on the Rabbi and the Other Guy.
Looking forward. Thank you.